Good evening, everybody. How are you all? First in the house tonight is Carol. Welcome, Carol. Thank you for joining. Can you just let me know if you can hear me and you can see me okay? And right, it's me. I'm having a moment. I moved my microphone and I pressed the button. I'm back with you now. Hello, Jane. What am I like? I've lost sound. Hello, Paula. Lovely to have you join. Paula I think this is your first live you're watching, and I know Paula from my art group. So a very big welcome to you. So I had some stamps produced from my own artwork. Peacock, hedgehog, bee, and hummingbird. That's better. Brilliant. So I'm going to actually show you how you can use them in bead embroidery and also in mixed media projects as well. Now, these I've got on special offer at the moment. They've got a couple of pounds off them. You can either buy from a Facebook group or online beadsbyverchiel.co.uk. But the wonderful thing with this is you can make multiple projects. So you can, if you're not really sure where to start with the stitching, you can buy one of my kits that will actually give you step-by-step guidance, or if you're a bit more confident, you can make up your pattern as you go along. So let's go on the overhead and let me explain exactly what I'm on about. I thought it was your first live. Fabulous to have you. Hello, Annette. Still breaking up. Right, perhaps if anybody else is having problems, but sometimes it helps if you shut down any other applications that you've got open as well. It might just be the fact that it's not a very good reception at the moment. So these are the stamps. Now, as you can see, they are so well used. Hello, Carol. That's my hummingbird. And let me show you what it comes out like in a piece of bead embroidery. So these are all on my website as well as a kit and as a stamp. So this is, because obviously the stamp goes that way down. So that's how the hummingbird comes out in my bead embroidery kit. And peacock is this one, and I haven't got it out, but I've got another style as well. So this particular kit explores a different way of bead embroidery, which is sort of a 3D raised effect. So that's that one. Then you've got the hedgehog, which I've got Cyril, Honey and Clara in gold, silver and brown. That's the gold version. Okay, and mini bee, where's my mini bee stamps? So those are my mini bee stamps, and that's what it looks like when it's produced. But obviously you can vary these, but what I want to show you is, okay, how do I use these stamps? How do I go about it? what ink do I use, what platform do I use to stamp it. So we're going to start right from scratch as well, and then at the end I'm going to show you some more samples as to in mixed media what other things can you use this for as well. But I'm just conscious I don't want to bombard you with everything all at once, so let's just take one step at a time. Now, hands up, who are card makers out there? If you are, it's more than likely that I've learned quite a few things along the way as well. Hello, Nikki, don't worry. So, and it's also quite handy being on Create and Craft as well. I've done a couple of shows with Dawn. I can't remember Dawn's surname, but Dawn is a real pro crafter and card maker, and she has shown me lots of techniques as I'm going along, which has been wonderful. Now, this is called, this is by Studio Light. You can get these off Create and Craft. It's called a stamp press. I'm just going to actually, bear with, let's just go on number one a minute whilst I just zoom out a bit. I'm a bit too close in to show you. Right, so this is called a stamp press. What I love about this is the fact that if you don't get a clean print, first of all, your stamp doesn't move, so the station keeps it in one place for you. So how does that actually translate, and what are we printing onto? Hello, Sally. Nikki makes cards. I thought you did, Nikki. I know you do quite a lot of mixed media. So if we open this up, it also comes with, oh, sorry, I pushed a button. Let me open it this side so I'm not pushing buttons. That's not good. Right, so this is my bead embroidery foundation, which you can buy from a website or from the group in 5x7 slices. So it is like a very stiff plain fabric. So we're just going to put some magnets. Well, what you guys that did the stamping told me about is if you have these magnets too close to the stamps, then it doesn't really ink very well. So let's start with our little hedgehog. So we're going to place him face down on wherever you want the outline printed. So then we're going to bring the stamping station down. Now you don't have to have this stamping station and go to extra expense. I'm going to show you just how to use a simple block as well. So I'm going to push that down. Now let me just try and reduce. Sorry, it's my big light overhead. So I've actually just stuck that to the outside. Okay, so that is in place. So I know that when I put my stamp on there, my ink on there, it will stamp. Now the inks that I found the best, I'm just going to move this out of the way because I'm conscious that you're getting a flashback of light. I like the archival ink. It needs to be permanent ink, because what will happen is you're going to ink it and then the hot hands will make it bleed the ink. Believe me, I've done it. It doesn't work. The other one is Verchiel, which you can get in these little dewdrops as well. So acid-free, permanent and waterproof. So I'd recommend that you give it a little, maybe half an hour before you start working after you've inked. Okay, so we're going to pop the ink pad. I'm going to turn it at an angle so you haven't got the flashback. And we are going to stamp all the way around our little Cyril. We'll call him Cyril. So get a good saturation on there. Okay, now The good thing is with this is if it doesn't work too well, you've actually got him stuck to the lid so you can redo it. So I'm going to stand up. I haven't got my pyjama bottoms on today, so I'm safe. And I'm just going to actually push down and get an imprint. So we open up and you've got your imprint. Now you could say, okay, I want the arm a little bit darker. So what you can do with this is you can go back in, and because on the stamping station it's in the same place, you can go back. Okay, so that's how to use a stamping station. Absolutely love it, wouldn't be without it. And then so we'll show you how to stamp, and then we'll get going, and I'll show you what actually how that translates into the stitching. So if we look again, that's how he's ended up. All right, so anybody got a stamping station? I know, I'm pretty sure Jane, you have one, and I'm pretty sure Nikki, you have one, because you gave me some of your top tips, which was so useful. So let's pop that away in the box. Now, I've got these large acrylic blocks as well that are an alternative to using the stamping station. These have got grid lines on them as well. Personally, I never have cause to use them, but I'm guessing they're probably quite handy. So I'm going to pop my hummingbird on there. Yes, Saba, the stamping station is for securing it firmly so that if you need to go back in, there's no sort of slipping. Now, these are on special as well at the moment. I've got a couple of pounds off of these. What I'd recommend with this, or the smaller ones, I've got some of the smaller ones available as well that fit the mini bees, is I would say draw, mark out the corners, so if you do need to go back in, you can do, if that makes sense. So let's try the Versa Magic. I better put the lid back on the other one. Now also you can use the stamping station in this if you're using it on card, or if you want to do a piece of artwork with it. Maybe you want to colour it in, maybe you want to do it as a watercolour on a card, you can do that too. And just stamp the outline onto your card. So it works exactly the same way. So I've inked that up. Turn this over. I'm going to make sure that I line that up, so if I do need to go back in, it's not all lost. So I'm going to stand up, give that a squidge. There we go. I am so getting better at inking, honestly. I dread doing this. When I've been on Create and Craft, I've actually, on the two occasions that I've been with Dawn, we had a little agreement before we went live that she'd do it, because you can just guarantee that hers will be so smooth and perfect. I'm not going to lie, it takes a little bit of practice, so you might want to use, also condition your stamps as well, which I would say just perhaps re-ink it on a piece of paper just to get the ink set in. Okay, I'm just going to make sure that I haven't missed any of your comments. I can't remember if I said hello to Sally. Hello, Judy. Jane has a stamping platform. She uses it for all sorts, not just card making, scrapbooking, and it helps the grandchildren to stamp perfectly. Fran said it took a while for it to start on my device, but found you on another one. Brilliant. Oh, you're liking the view. Brilliant. Okay, so let's have a little look at how does this translate into bead embroidery. Now, I'm not going to start on this one because it's quite a big piece. What I thought I'd do is I would go on to a mini bee and I would do something a bit different. So that's one that I've started already, but I thought we'd start on the Queenie. So let's put those to one side. Do you want to see the state of my room after my lives? They're everywhere. Right, so I'm going to tidy up as we go along. Hello, Sue. Hope you're on the mend and you're doing okay. Right, would you like to see any more samples at the moment, or should we just get stuck straight in for now? I think I've kind of answered my own question there, haven't I? Right, I thought we'd go for an alternative bee, and I thought we'd go for something like a lilac combo. You know, perhaps a colour that you wouldn't ordinarily associate with bees. As what I call artistic license is, you know, we can go off piece, can't we? So I'm going to just show you a recap on some of our basic bead embroidery stitches. In my wisdom, I haven't got my wax, but it's always a good idea to wax your threads if you can. It's the same sort of wax that you use as well for sewing. I must get some more in stock. So I'm using Nymo thread, but if you missed my other tutorials, I've got 2 tutorials on basic bead embroidery stitches. So I'm using Nymo thread. The bee can be made into a brooch or into a necklace, or whatever you like really. I'm just triple knotting that. I'm just going to go on the main screen whilst I just zone in so that you can actually see what I'm doing. Oh, I forgot to tell you something. Right, it just reminded me because I thought my hand is really dirty. This, I don't know if anybody else uses this with their stamps, but it really bothers me, the fact that my stamping station gets really dirty. This stays on cleaner. I got mine from Amazon. It actually cleans all of the ink off your stamping stations. It doesn't necessarily, it gets the foundation ink off of your stamps, but I think ordinarily your stamps are always going to be a bit mucky. Right, so I thought we'd go for a bit of a, should we go for a bit of a lilac colour? I don't know why I emptied all of those out because we're definitely not going to use them. So I'm going to actually outline my bee wings. So I'm using a size 10 beading needle, coming up the back until I hit the knot. Okay, and then got a stray bead. We're going to work generally in groups of 4, but when you actually get round the corners, is just use less beads so that you've got a nice neat corner. I'll explain. So at the end of the 4th bead, take a nosedive down at the end, and then we're going to back stitch, push our needle into the first bit where the knot is, and we're going to push into those 4 beads, which is what we call reinforcing. Oh, we've got an art group gathering today. Hello, Julie. Julie's also from my art group, and it's her first time watching as well, I think, and Judy as well. But Judy and I double up and we go to choir as well. But thank you for joining. That's brilliant. So we're going to add, let's see, I can't remember if 4 beads fits this one. Yeah, just about. But right, so we're going to take a nosedive down the back there. Now the other thing that you could do with bead embroidery, just to say quickly, sorry, digressing, we're going to back stitch into the previous hole, and we're going to push our needle through the 4 we've just added. Now for those artists among you, what you could also do with regards to making your own drawings or designs is you could always make your image and transfer the image actually onto the beading foundation. I don't think it'd be easy enough to put a light box over the foundation because it's quite thick. But there are ways that you can transfer that image actually onto the foundation or just draw directly onto that. So we're just doing another 4. Linda is just sharing our sister group. Thank you so much. Now Linda, Kim and Francis are my absolutely amazing admin team in the Beaders group, which is where we share all of our crafty makes. It doesn't have to be jewellery, and we share in the crafty chat, and we also have giveaways every month as well. Mixed media winner and jewellery winner. Right, I'm just adding 1 in this time because that fits quite nicely. Now just bear in mind that I am going off piste from the pattern I'm doing, because I'm just really going to do a bit of freestyling, which just means I'm just going to see where it takes me. No worries, Trisha. She says she's a bit late, but it's no problem. It's just lovely to have you join. So there's another 4 there, so I'm just going to back stitch again. But if anybody's got any questions, if this is the first, it's very, very similar to that, Julie. It's basically a stiff backing that you stitch onto. You can use Violin, but perhaps it might get your creative juices going, you know, thinking about artwork as well and what you can actually do with it. I actually did, I'm just back stitching, an art group last term, I think it was, or maybe the term before. Yeah, it was the term before. I did a tiger in a pop art, and I actually printed it onto the foundation and actually put it into beadwork as well. I'll have to pop it up in the group and show you, but I really, really enjoyed that. Now I'm going to take off that last bead. But like I say, for those of you that sort of perhaps missed the start, you can find me on YouTube, Beads by Verchiel, and I've got lots of YouTube tutorials, and the last couple that I did are on there, apart from the brick stitch edging, that's not quite on there yet, showing you all the basic techniques in bead embroidery. So you've got 2 tutorials and they're all free on there. So I'm going to go down here as well. So this is really the basics in the bead embroidery, but whilst it's the basics, it really gets you most of your bead embroidery done. You know, there are other little techniques that I try and introduce a new one in each kit that's on the website as well. Always happens when you're online, right? But I always think, do you know what, it's a good thing that these things happen, because hopefully you'll realise, well, hopefully it's not just me, you'll realise that these things do happen. Now, if you've got a knot like that, a real stinking little knot, okay, what I always have at hand is a needle, but like a pin, sorry, not a needle, because a needle just quivers too much. It's not solid enough for this. And actually try and push that in the middle of your knot. You watch, because I'm online, it's not going to work, is it? Instead, I'll probably end up stabbing my finger. Right, let's persevere. Maybe the pin's a bit too thick. What happens as well when you get knots on there is the fact that it starts fraying as well. So sometimes it's just worth actually tying off and starting again. Oh, there we go. That's got it out. So that's my top tip. Push a needle in the middle of your knot. Right, I think now Sue's just starting the hedgehog. Sue, is that's from is that from a kit, or is that from one of the stamps that you bought, or maybe both? Hello, Maxine. Oh, anyone else frozen? No. That's not good. The reception's not very good tonight, is it? I use 2 needles when I get in a knot. Hello, Dot. Good shout. So in our previous tutorials, we look at different size beads as well. Now the beads I'm using today are inside lined lilac. They are a Czechoslovakian brand called Precosa, and the higher the number of the seed bead, the smaller they are. So this is actually a size 10. You know, the most used sizes I'd say in bead embroidery are 10, 11 and size 15s, which you do need your sort of x-ray specs for them. So I like to do the outline in my bead embroidery, so I'm just going to actually outline the wings as I've done, and then let's pop some filler in as well. So I would just go inside. Now this one is actually using something called bullion wire. We're not going to look at that today, but if you want to know, if you go back and look at those tutorials, I show you how to use that. So I'm just filling in the wings. Now Trisha, who's in the group today, go and have a look at her mini bee. Now she bought one of the mini bee stamps, and I absolutely love the way she put her own design in the bee. She used bugle beads, which are like long tubular beads, and she also used 3 different types of edging that we did in last week's tutorial as well, which, you know, the stamps really do open up a world of creativity for you. But I really loved it. Go and give her her work some love hearts. So what you can also do is what we call reinforce, which is to go all the way through the row you've just stitched, and what that does is it helps to actually make them sit more uniformly. No worries, Nikki. So I'm using exactly the same technique. But I have to say, I think bead embroidery, yes, Linda actually got a gorgeous tattoo done with based on the bee stamp. What an absolute privilege that you know, to me, that you've actually used it. I'd forgotten all about that, Linda. Now what you could always do in this little bit here is you could always pop some little size 15 seed beads. Now sometimes with size 15 seed beads you actually have to use a smaller needle, so a size 12 beading needle, but the Toho brand takes the size 10s that I use as well. Hope that makes sense. So the 15s are the really tiny ones, but what I like about that is it's putting a bit of light and shade in there as well. So let's do the lower wing. Oh, that would be brilliant. Linda's going to pop a photograph of her tattoo in our beaders group. And Tricia said thank you for the mention. You're very welcome. And don't forget that from the end of this month, our monthly giveaway is now open to everyone posting a picture of any of their inspired makes from any of my tutorials. And if you remember to, just pop hashtag giveaway on the post as well. I'm just going to pop another size 15. But for those of you that haven't done this before, I hope I'm not talking too much jargon. So I'm just going to reinforce that. I think I might put a tiny little bead in there. So I'm not going to do the whole thing, but I just wanted to give you an idea as to, you know, what on earth do you do with these stamps? Because it's all right me oh, getting that stamp on everything. It's all right me having these stamps, but what am I going to do with them, sort of thing. Trisha is beading a butterfly at the moment, inspired by mine. Is that the one that I wear? I do love that. I'd like to put that into a piece of artwork that's inspired. I can't copy it because it's not my artwork. But I can be inspired by it. I've just had so many people really like it. And I'd quite like to do one with freshwater pearls in it, like the one I've got. Let's pop a couple of 15s in there as well. So let's just take stock. There we go. I could do my strawberries. Do you know what, Julie? I was thinking about that the other night. That's the back, okay? Don't worry about the back. If anybody's looking at the back, they're being far too nosy. Now, a couple of tips is, right, you want to move your needle to somewhere else. Don't tie off, there's no need to. I would use these thread bars here to thread your needle underneath to get where you want to go. Does that make sense? If you're working on a big piece and you've got quite a big jump to go, then it might be an idea to tie off and start again on a new thread. Oh, I was thinking, what? Sorry, I'm having a right old chat to myself here. That's what I'm looking for. Now, I thought I would use, I've got these little Czechoslovakian 2mm pearls, and I thought, well, those would be quite nice to put in the head. So now I don't know why, but I think probably in production they must, I don't know quite how they make them, but you do have to break them apart sometimes. It would make quite a nice necklace or brooch, wouldn't it? Thank you, Paula and Julie. We're going to have to get some art group bead embroidery done, aren't we? So this is just showing you that it doesn't have to be seed beads, you can use other beads. Now, because they're a bit bigger, I'm actually going to do what we call a what the stitch is, what is it called? It's not a half hitch because that's in couch down, that's what it's called. It's where you're couching a bead. It's my age, forgetting things. Actually, I've always been like it. Wish I could blame it on my age. But perhaps if you are new to this, is start off with a small project, you know, like the mini bee first of all, or just even get out some fabric and just practice doing some stitches. Now, whilst I wouldn't recommend that you use cotton, because this is specialist thread that's used and it doesn't stretch like cotton but it's okay to practice with. So what I think I'm going to do up here is just edge the top with some of my size 15 seed beads. And you could always, as well as if you've got some sentimental pieces, you could always use some beads from a sentimental necklace, because you can stitch any bead, you know, providing it fits the slot, so to speak, you know, it fits where it's meant to. Paula said, talking of age, I had a magnifying lamp for Christmas and now I can see to thread a needle. Honestly, Paula, they are just amazing, aren't they? And I think particularly, I remember when I first started doing bead embroidery, it was actually it was bead weaving I started doing first of all, which is using needle and thread. I remember one of the ladies, I'd never taught it before, and it was actually one of the ladies that came to my workshop that introduced me to it. And I remember her showing me the size of the needle and the beads, and I'm like, no way, I am never going to be able to thread that. But honestly, it's just practice. Also, working in daylight is a good thing as well, because how many of you have actually done some beading at night time, and when you've looked the next day you think, well, I didn't realise that I put a different coloured bead in there, or I didn't realise that I've crossed my thread over the top of my work there. It really, even in lighting, you know, sometimes it covers up a multitude of things. So, I'm quite enjoying myself here. Do you know, I've had such a busy day today. I'm sure you all have as well. I've just been getting all of my stock and samples and everything ready for another show, which takes rather a long time because there's a lot of paperwork to fill in as well. But I think I'm finally there. Nikki said to start bead embroidery, try stitching on 14 or 16 count either. You might have to expand on that a little bit for us, Nikki, because I've not heard of that, and it sounds very interesting. So there we go. Let's just bring it in a little bit more. We're doing okay for time, so if you're quite happy to, I'll just carry on making a few more little bits and pieces. So let's have a look at the crown now, shall we? So I think with the crown I'm going to pop these little beads at the top. I'm going to use for the crown some metallic, you can hardly see them, but they're metallic, size 15. They've got a slight purple tone to them. Is Jackie here from Art Group as well? Please say hello if you are. Don't be shy. Honestly, if I can do it, so can you. Although it's taken many years of practice to feel comfortable on camera, I can tell you. Of course, Jane, I'm forgetting that we met in Cheltenham. So I'm just popping that on there. I'm missing all of your comments. Right, so there we go. And I'm going to do it this side. Now, the actual antennas, if I'm honest with you, I wouldn't stitch them in. I wouldn't bother with them. And only because they're super fiddly to stitch in. And what I've done in my kits is I've actually made them out of wire. So I shall come back and have a quick read of your messages in a second. I'm going to stitch that one in the middle. But what I love about this is it's just so like free, in the sense that, you know, you can just, it is like a piece of artwork that you're stitching, and at the end of the day, if you don't like what you've stitched, what have you lost? Just undo it. You know, don't be frightened of making mistakes, because believe you me, I make lots of mistakes, and before I even get to the stage of even putting anything out to you, I've probably gone through a number of different samples before I get to where they are. So I am just right. I do actually have one of the teardrop Bursa inks, but if anybody does want them, I can and can't find them, wants me to order them, just let me know. I can put in an order and stock them if you find that more useful. But I do have one left. Oh. Right, what's happened there is sometimes in production, some of the beading, some of the seed beads are slightly smaller than others and get stuck on your needle. So I just discard those. I wonder if that will fit in. How are we doing for time? Yeah, we're doing okay. We'll keep going for a bit, and then sort of when we've got about 5-6 minutes left, I will show you some mixed media projects that I've done through the stamps. I need to show you how to tie off as well. Let's just finish filling in. Oh, I think I've actually snapped my bead in half, I think. But it's a good opportunity to show you what to do. So if you make a mistake, what I would do is take your needle off, get your pin and pull it that way, and then rethread your needle. Much easier than trying to go back, because what you end up doing when you go back is you end up what we call splitting your thread, which is where your needle goes through the middle of your thread and it just traps itself. Just pop in a couple of these at the side, just to fill that in. Excuse me. Now, it's not worth overfilling places, because when you overfill, it does start to buckle. Can you see that? That's buckling slightly. What you can always do as well when things are buckling is, if you need to pull your thread in a bit, just stitch to the side and just do that couching. So you couch over and between beads like so. And if you want to know how to cut out, then that is in the previous tutorials as well. Okay. And likewise, if you need to just reposition, that's not quite where I'd want it to be, so I'm just going to see if I can bring it over a little bit and couch over. Now, if we wanted to travel further down, we can go through our stitches like that. And I was going to show you how to tie off. So I think, how are we doing? We've got a couple of minutes, so let's actually just do a little bit of the tail. What colour should we use for the tail? I think we will go with some of these purpley coloured size 15s. So again, I like to outline first, outline then fill. That's just the way things roll well for me, but you know, experiment, whatever works for you. I never like to make any hard and fast rules, because I think rules take out the enjoyment for people. I can give you guidance and step by step on the kit, but I always say, you know, what works for you. I'm quite liking this mauvey colour. All I'd say as well with size 15 seed beads is it's not always, depending on the brand, possible to what we call reinforce, which is when we go back through the beads. So just bear that in mind. If you just need to take off one bead, just be very careful that you don't split your thread, and just go back up through the bead. So we will finish at the top of the bee body, and we'll show you, I say the royal we, I'll show you how to tie off. To start a new piece of thread, you start in exactly the same way with a new thread as you did when you started the pattern, i.e. have a triple knot or quadruple knot on the bottom, and just bring your thread up to where you finished once you've actually tied off the old one. Now, so there we go. So I would put some rows down there as well. Oh, tying off. Honestly, attention span of a gnat. Right, so tying off. Let's get up close. Go underneath the foundation, underneath a stitch, and pick up a bit of the foundation. But before you pull it, go through the loop to tie a knot. Then shuffle your way a bit further around the work, go underneath a thread or a couple of threads, pick up a little bit of the foundation. Just go back round again, and this time when you tie a knot. So do that in 2 to 3 different places before you actually tie off. Okie dokes. So that one is the bee stamp. Let's just have a quick look and make sure I haven't actually missed any of your comments. Very pretty, says Dot. Looking good, says Judy. Thank you. Sue's been sat with her leg elevated for most of the day. I'm guessing that's sort of part of your recuperation. You have to make sure you don't do too much. Jane was just recounting when she came to one of my workshops when I had a shop in Cheltenham, and she too couldn't believe threading the size 15 needles. 15 beads rather. Ida is cross stitch fabric, so already has holes in it and is really easy to practice on. Ooh. Trisha said for the antenna I cut the end of a head pin, bend it in a U shape and loop the ends. What a wonderful idea. I love it. Right, let's just finish off with a little bit of mixed media inspiration. Okay, now I used the mini bee stamp to stamp onto fabric. You could use fabric ink, or if you're not likely to sort of wash it, you can use the same ink that I've demonstrated on. I don't know why I've got a little mark on there. I've used a little bit of gold work in there, some, can't remember what those stitches are, but anyway, that was a little purse pouch that I did. This was again using the stamp but doing some gold work. So if ever you've come across gold work and you like it, check out that embroidery girl. Amazing, amazing work. So that's those, you know, that's just to show you how you can use that. I turn that into a brooch. Now, being a club member on Create and Craft is I quite often like to get the freebies every month where I just pay for the stamp. And these stamps, the flower stamps, Lisa Horton stamps I think they are, so I've combined those with some of my own. Now let's just zoom out a little bit because I can't actually see what I'm doing, what I've got in front of me. So I've used the stamps on watercolour paper, and then I've watercoloured them, did a bit of a background, and then I've actually used the double-sided sticky tape and actually popped that on a card. So I'm just gonna, not so keen on that one I have to say, but anyway, you know, show you warts and all. So again, that's using watercolours, a different stamp, my little hedgehog. This was actually a plate that you use that you can rotate the stamp. So basically that's how I got the circular motion on that. That was from, oh gosh, I can't think of the, Pearly Winks. Pearly Winks have got lots of lovely stuff. That's one that Ems did, my daughter. Hello Trisha. That is using watercolours with some metallic ink. Bit of watercolour. So again, it's just showing you what you can do. A nice improvised one from my daughter. Do you know the other thing you could use these for as well? This is not the best, I have to say, but I like buying these little cards and actually using a little hole punch, a tiny hole punch to hang earrings on. So I like the idea of having some of the artwork on there as well. So that's another option if you're selling your jewellery, or you know, perhaps you want it to match some of the artwork that you're selling. That's my hummingbird, little buzzy bee. Well, that was a mess. See, I do make lots of messes. That was just experimentation. That's my hummingbird stamp. Hummingbird stamp. These are all available, the stamps, and we're nearly there. Nearly there. My little hedgehog, little Cyril. That's not so good. Not so good. But oh no, I'm definitely not showing you that one. So yeah, it's a great way. So just to show you the other finished pieces before we go from the stamps. So there you go. Let me just, Paula loves the idea of the cards. It's just a nice little relaxing thing to do, and it's a nice way of practicing techniques with pencils or wirework, pencils or watercolour. Nikki said if you're going to use stamp on card or paper, then use pencils to colour paint the card paper with clear gesso first, and it will make the colours brighter. Do you know what? I see gesso been put on the craft channels quite regularly, but I never know really what to use it for, so that's a great tip, Nikki, thank you. Maxine, you're very welcome. I do hope you enjoyed. We're bang on 7 o'clock, so thank you everybody for joining. Do not forget, please make sure you share your art makes, your jewellery makes, your crafty makes in our sister group Beaders of Beads by Verchiel, and you can find all of these bits and pieces on Facebook or in my website beadsbyverchiel.co.uk. Anyway, take care, speak to you all soon, bye.